say the prayer, and Mr. Emery Zilke to say or lead us in the pledge.
Please rise. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for all our many blessings, Lord. We thank you for an opportunity we have to come serve this community and our students, Lord. We're thankful for the students that are here tonight to share with us from Sulphur Springs and from the FFA chapter, Davy Crockett. And dear Lord, we just thank you and we ask you to bless this meeting, bless our time together. Be with us as the decisions we make that it'll affect for years to come, Lord. We just pray that you'd bless them. We're thankful for all the students we have and all the teachers we have and the staff members, Lord. We couldn't do this without them. We just ask you to bless them as we have these last 3 weeks. We just ask you to be with them, be with those that are starting new chapters, starting college. Dear Lord, bless them and their lives. Dear Lord, we just thank you so much for all that you do for us. In your name we pray. Amen.
Attention, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome all our guests here. We do have some students here tonight, and Mr. Boyd's going to introduce those students.
Certainly. We start out with celebrating and acknowledging Sulphur Springs Elementary and their leadership team. I want to call Dr. Little up and kind of introduce all his team and the students.
Thank you very much, Mr. Boyd. We really have been excited about coming here this evening to share the story of Sulphur Springs and the problem that our students identified at the beginning of the school year and that they've been working through the engineering design process to solve at various stages throughout the year. Before they come up, though, I wanted to recognize two members of our leadership team in Sulphur Springs. Miss O'Neill, she is a very critical person on the team. She does a lot with our partnerships in the community, and she leads a lot of the work in the building. And I wanted to call special attention to Miss Coleman. If you'll step up, Miss Coleman. Miss Coleman is an amazing leader. She's a community hero within Sulphur Springs. This is her 40th year in Washington County Schools, and we celebrated her earlier in the year. Mr. Boyd came out, and we had board members who came out as well. But Miss O'Neill, the thing that is so special about Miss Coleman is that she has such a love for children. And Miss Coleman, she works with the student leadership team every single day, and she is the guiding force behind the student leadership team. And I just wanted to call her up and celebrate Miss Coleman for all of her work at Sulphur Springs School for the last 40 years.
Are you coming back for 41?
I think so.
All
Unless
right.
somebody tells me no.
All
Mr. Boyd's shaking his head that I can come back, so I guess.
At this time, then, we will call up the members of the student leadership team, and they're going to share with you their problem of practice for this school year. Oh, they also had something they wanted to say about Ms. O'Neill really quickly in I keep saying Ms. O'Neill, Ms. Coleman. They want to share some descriptor words of Ms. Coleman before they start their presentation in middle school language for you.
Okay, Miss Coleman is very drippy. She comes to school every day in different pair of band-aids. I think Miss O'Neill is lit because she gives. Oh, sorry. Miss Coleman is lit because she always gives me snacks.
Miss Coleman is the OG.
I think Miss Coleman is very fussy because she always gets there.
Miss Coleman's a G because she's always there and gives us snacks.
So thank you for having us here today. I'm Mackenzie Shivers. I'm in the 8th grade and I've been at Sulphur Springs since I was in 6th grade. I'm Corey Lyons. I'm in 8th grade this year and I've been at Sulphur Springs since I was in kindergarten.
I'm Sal Southgate. I'm in 8th grade and I've gone to Sulphur Springs since 6th grade.
I'm Ryan Phillips in the 8th grade. I've gone to Sulphur Springs since kindergarten.
I'm Carly Mowry and I'm in 7th grade and I've been at Sulphur Springs since kindergarten.
You may have any questions.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they
I
were,
did not. We have any
we're getting
questions,
to their
then we'll go
slide
down to
deck.
it.
There we go.
So at Sulphur Springs, we're empowered to solve problems, and an example of solving problems is relationships. In relationships, we know that there are going to be problems, so we have to work together to solve them. By working together, it will create bonds, and with those bonds, it will encourage students to come to school. And by coming to school, students can meet or exceed their academic goals.
At Sulphur Springs, we strive to push students to become independent leaders. We focus on how we can help students solve problems in future STEM careers. All careers are going to have issues, especially STEM careers, and the more prepared our students are, the better off they will be.
At Sulphur Springs, everybody has the ability to be a leader, and everybody has the ability to have power. And we strive for our leaders to be able to be respectful, confident, encouraging, kind, and be able to solve problems.
This is our mindset for problem solving, also known as our engineering design process. So first we ask, what questions are we trying to answer? Then we imagine our possible solutions or answers. After that, we plan, draw a diagram, and make a material list. Then we create, make a prototype and test it out. And finally, we improve well-worked and modifier design.
The engineering design process is displayed throughout the school because we have to have a way of solving problems in and out of the classroom. Because it's a school, it's going to have problems, so you have to have a way, a mindset to solve them.
So each year, our student leadership team finds a problem within the school affecting students. And our year 1 team is access and engagement. Access and engagement is providing opportunities for students that otherwise would not be within their reach.
We noticed at Sulphur Springs, our middle school students were not adequately prepared for high school electives, so we created the CTE room to further prepare them for the high school electives.
In our year 2, we saw that the younger students at Sulphur Springs were struggling to meet their academic and behavioral goals. So we made the kindergarten through 3rd grade action room as a reward for meeting our weekly goals. We also made a problem-solving bin for whenever we are faced with a problem so that we can identify what we need to do to work through it together. These are more pictures of our kindergarten through 3rd grade action room.
We, the year 3 student leadership team, were challenged to find a problem in the school affecting students. So what we have found is that some students do not care about their grades, and when one student doesn't try on their assessment, it can ruin the average for the whole grade. So our goal is to find methods and or strategies to motivate students to have better academic proficiency.
These are our 2024 TCAP boards. So we analyzed these and noticed that the 3rd through 5th grade had a higher than 50% proficiency, and our middle school students had a lower than 50%. So we're going to see why our lower grades are scoring much higher than our middle school students. So we sent a survey to all the middle school students to identify what could motivate them for higher academic proficiency. We had a total of 115 responses, which is about 94% of all middle school students.
We asked, what have you done up to this point to improve your academic scores? What would make you want to strive to do better in class? And what motivates you or will motivate you to do better in your life?
The data we collected. These are our top 2 responses from the survey, one of them being outside time. Outside time correlates with social and emotional interaction for students, and the second one is hands-on and group projects. Hands-on and group projects is a time where students take control of their own learning and go at a pace they need. Proficiency. So what is proficiency? Proficiency involves a deep understanding of a subject. It's a key factor in career progression, and it also helps perform tasks more efficiently.
Why is it important? Students perform tasks with greater accuracy, speed, and organization, and it helps enhance problem-solving skills.
So we wanted to figure out why the 3rd through 5th was scoring higher than the 6th through 8th. So we went on a learning walk, and during this walk we seen in lower grade classrooms that there were words of affirmations and words. So we wanted to implement those into our higher grade classrooms as a motivator.
When I walked into the 3 through 5 classrooms, I felt more productive compared to my classroom where I didn't have words.
These words made me feel cozy and safe, and my favorite one is "Don't you dare steal my struggle."
So this is our benchmark on fire, and we sat on it. It's not about how bad you want it, it's about how hard you're willing to work for it. and that we'd like for students to meet 50% proficiency or higher to be awarded before outside time.
These were our first benchmark scores. So again, here we're seeing that the 3rd through 5th grade are scoring above the 50% mark, about a 53.2, and our middle school is much below at a 37. So we're going to see what we can do to get those scores up.
So we all came together and found a reason why we feel we didn't do good or try on this case.
So we came together, and again, I did not try because I knew it wasn't a grade, and it was just noise in the classroom.
I didn't try on the case test because I knew it wasn't a grade, and I also felt like it was just really cold and noisy.
I didn't try because I didn't really feel prepared enough because we had just come back from a break.
I feel I didn't do good because I didn't go back and read regularly.
So our leadership team made a presentation for our 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students, and we used a word cloud to figure out what would motivate them. And this is how we came up with Motivation Monday.
So Motivation Monday is a reward system to encourage students to meet their academic goals. Students who have completed their work up to the 9 weeks mark get to go to the gym every Monday for 15 minutes.
Our goal for the Case 2 assessment is for grades 6 through 8 to have at least 50% proficiency.
So we didn't get enough feedback and results, so we went to the middle school grade classroom teachers and asked them if they thought student motivation helped.
So our 7th and 8th grade math teacher, James Garth, says, absolutely. I think the students had an awareness of where they scored previously. Knowing this, they attempted to meet or exceed their previous scores.
Our ELA teacher, Kirsty Shoshi, said students are much more excited and inspired to prove people wrong. There's a difference in the way they act in class. They're respectful and confident. And our social studies teacher, Emma Clark, said, meaningful to hear from students. Students care more and are invested more. Students are willing to put forth their full effort.
Growth. So our overall goal was 50% for benchmark 2, and our projected proficiency was 44.3. The projected proficiency from benchmark 1 was only 37. From our work with teachers and peers, we were able to see an increase of 7.3%.
So we sent out a done ranking to all of our middle school students to further identify what motivates them. We asked questions in 5 categories.
Adult approval, peer approval, tangibles, competitive rewards, and independence.
So these are our results, and one being peer approval. So our peer mentorship class is adding an additional class for middle school students to help with guidance and encouragement. We created this class because we saw that more students wanted to be in that peer mentorship class. Another one is adult approval, and we are having an assembly for students to give them certificates to acknowledge their growth.
And then another one for peer approval, we're going to be introducing a student-to-student shout-out board and a teacher-to-student shout-out board. And tangibles. Even though tangibles didn't really show up on the done ranking, I feel like my peers work better whenever they are rewarded with tangibles. It helps them refocus and refresh their minds. Cheez-Its, please.
Our goal for Case 3 assessment is for grades 6 through 8 to have at least 50% proficiency.
So these are our case 1 through 3 and our TCAP, and we saw that the 3rd through 5th was still scoring above 50% proficiency, and that our 6th grade was scoring below 50% proficiency.
So these were our total scores. So we're seeing that the 3rd through 5th had a 57.4 on their case 3, and the middle school had a 44. So again, we're still below, but we grew from a 37 to a 44 with just motivators and things like that. So that's really good.
So what are the next steps? So next fall we will have our new leadership team, and we will just look at our new TCAP scores from this year and identify what we need to do to move forward with that. And then new student leadership. So next year, our current leadership team will choose next year's student leadership team based on grades, teacher recommendations, behavior in class, and the characteristics that they have of leadership.
So as the Year 3 student leadership team, we would like to pass on leadership characteristics and qualities to be a leader?
So, from being on the 2024-2025 leadership team, I have gained leadership skills. To be a leader, you have to have communication and problem-solving skills. And Dr. Little and Ms. Coleman have taught me how to use these skills, and most of all, be the bigger person.
Thank you.
Does anyone have it? Mr. Masters?
Great presentation. One thing I am curious about, how have you all learned from this starting high school next year? And what's your goal when you hit high school? Because you're all of you in 8th grade, right? You're in 7th.
Go ahead, Corey, start off.
I think that I've realized through this that test scores do matter. I used to think that case scores didn't because they weren't great, but now through this, I've realized they actually do matter and they have a purpose.
I guess going through high school, just continue to be a leader and motivate students to do good.
They really said it.
Ditto, right?
I just want to say your program, not only your program, but your presentation and your skills are very impressive. It's hard to get up in front of people and do what you did, and that was awesome. Thank you.
Did very well.
Very well.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you for Ms. Coleman. Ms. O'Neill, appreciate you all's dedication to students.
Man. Thank you both.
Thank you, Dr. Little.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. I think our next group we get to recognize Mr. Ford from David Crockett High School.
All right, I would like to thank you all, begin by thanking you all for the support that you give us in the school board. I'd like to thank Mr. Boyd and Dr. Davis sitting back here. Without you all, the support and the leadership that comes from you all, none of what we're able to do in the classroom level would be possible. So thank you all. So we're going to kind of highlight some of what the kids have done throughout, or students, they're not really kids anymore, a lot of them are fixing to graduate and leave us. But highlight what they've done, and a couple of them to talk about what they've done throughout this year. So we'll start with state degrees, and state degrees for some of you all, I know some of you all have been in FFA, so Maggie Brown, Callie Collette, y'all step forward. Alden Irwin, Andrew Jenkins, Addison Kiker, and Sophie Malloy. So these students received their state degree, and that is the highest award and honor that the state FFA in Tennessee can give to a student member. They've got to have 25 hours of community service. They've had to be enrolled in agriculture education classes for 2 years, and along with they've got to compete in other areas. I think it's five contests above the chapter level. They have to know parliamentary procedure. So I think that's kind of one of my favorite parts about this is government office and getting these kids ready to be commissioners and be school board members, and those sort of things. And that achieving that state degree tells me that those kids are ready for the community and ready to go in and be able to make an impact. So these are our state degree recipients, and then we'll kind of talk a little bit more about everybody else. So the Agri-Science Fair is probably one of my favorite things. It's research-based. The students are able to find an issue. They're able to go through the scientific process. They're able to form that hypothesis and test it and see what happens. Put together a presentation. They go to state convention, and then they present that presentation there. And they're compete across members from the state. Journey Higgins and Audrey Hensley, they were state runner-ups in the environmental systems area. So they studied how water flowed through different growing media, which is important with the recent hurricane and the floods and how everything's changed down on the river. Just kind of knowing how's that water going to flow through silt, because a lot of that is what's there now. So that's kind of the driving force behind what they were doing. So they were first in the region, second state runner-up. All right, Mike Sanders. studied which enough is enough about Dr. Enough. And so it's funny and interesting when we take that down to state convention and we talk to them down there about that, of which enough is enough. A lot of them don't know what Dr. Enough is, but a lot of people, if you like Dr. Enough, you can tell that there's a difference between the long bottle and the short bottle. And so that's what he studied, and people could tell the difference in that. Lakin Cox was also with him. He wasn't able to make it tonight, but they were second in region, third in the state. So nice. Lindy, Clara Whitson and Lindy Fox looked at, so we've, part of horticulture is flowers and growing flowers and that sort of thing. And so they took dye and they dyed water to see if they could get those flowers to turn colors and produce some of the most beautiful speckled roses I've ever seen. They were white with little speckles. So they were first in the region and third in the state. Andrew James is going to tell you a little bit about his project. So he studied some soil down on the river. They were second in the region, fifth in state. They had a really good project. We were really confident about them going down to compete. So I'll give them the floor.
So as he mentioned, I did my project with my partner on soils down by the river. We took soil samples with a control group from just normal soils like around this area and soils that were taken down on the river. And we did pH tests and NPK value tests and found that they were largely similar. And the whole point of doing these tests was just to let farmers know if there was really going to be much of a difference in their crop yields. And we found that there should be pretty good crop yields from it.
All right, Sophie Malloy. So we actually had, I'll tell this on Sophie, she might reach over and hit me. But it's interesting to see the passion that the students develop through their projects. And so Sophie actually, so she did hers on Are You Involved in Ag? And she started last year, and it was a continuation into this year of how many students were interested in taking ag classes and how much they felt like they were involved in agriculture. One of the things that I can remember from high school and kind of that slogan that still sticks around is if you eat, you're involved in agriculture. And so Sophie, would you like to tell them about your project? We got to hear a lot about it yesterday. We did officer interviews, and I told her after the interviews were over, I said, Sophie, I don't think I've ever heard you talk that much. So.
I'm quite passionate about this project. So being a junior in high school, I have noticed that a lot of people want to be involved in agriculture and have no way to get into agriculture. So I decided to come up with a survey and send it out to the whole entire school body to see if they knew they were involved in agriculture, if they wanted to be involved in agriculture, and if they had a way to get in agriculture. So with those results, I was able to get everybody that wanted to be in a class by not exactly presenting an agriculture class to the freshmen as a science credit. So I was able to take that kind of away from the science credit and get people that actually wanted to be in an agriculture class, in a class. So this year, I decided to add on to that and put it out to the community and if they even knew about agriculture. So with that, I was able to reach out more to the community, ask them what they thought about agriculture, and see if they knew about us at all. And with that result, we had quite a bit of people want to be in ag and know more about ag. So that was my end goal, and it was pretty successful. So thank you.
So if you can stay up here. Sophie Malloy was also, she won her proficiency in the region. And so proficiency is basically it's a supervised agriculture experience, which is the same thing as a work-based learning project. And so Sophie she shows sheep with the David Crockett FFA show team. And so having her being able to compete for that proficiency, I was kind of a proud dad in that moment because that's a project that we introduced into the school. And for her to be able to take off with it and run with it, and so for her to be able to win that regional proficiency compete at the state level and get second, we were very proud of her and kind of that program. And it's expanded. I think we started with 2 kids, we moved up to 4. I think last year we had 10, and I've got about 15 interested right now of students that are really just wanting to show sheep, and so kind of becomes that, how do we get more sheep? So it's been a great project. Do you have anything you'd like to say about that project?
I do
All right, good job. Callie Collette. So Callie shows dairy cattle, and she won her proficiency in dairy evaluation, or not dairy evaluation, but dairy production entrepreneurship. So she was able to compete with the cattle that she owns. It's very impressive to me when you get high school students that own 15 to 20 head of cattle on their own, and what start that they've got as they graduate high school and go into that production standpoint, and how the family has helped them and kind of put them in the position where they can carry on that production agricultural legacy. So Callie also, she's going to tell you a little bit about, so she competed and was named a regional star. It's very interesting. This year we had 2 regional stars from Dave Crockett. I don't know that that's happened in a while at any chapter across the state to have 2 students that had that work-based learning program that was able to go and compete. So Callie's going to tell you a little bit about her program, what she does.
So I was fortunate enough to be named the regional star in agribusiness. So my ag business is Sideline Farms Farm Fresh Beef that I own and operate on our family's farm. I am responsible for herd management, checking freezers, stocking inventory, and making sure that I always have an animal ready to go to the processor or to be picked up from the processor. I market my business through social media, through Instagram, Facebook, and I also have a website. And then I also attend Jonesboro Farmers Markets most Saturdays throughout the summer to try and reach a broader customer base.
So this is a very interesting project. If you remember in 2020 when the shelves were bare, you couldn't get meat, you couldn't, because we were, kind of Southeast regional facilities is how we relied on that, and those plants got COVID, and you couldn't get a hamburger, you couldn't get steak. And so that's kind of the inception of this project, is how can I provide, meat and food straight from the farm to the consumer. So she's done very well with this project. We're very proud of her. Alden Irwin, Alden will step up. So he was the star in agriculture placement. So basically what that means is he works in agriculture enterprises in Washington County and throughout the areas. And so he'll tell you a little bit about his project and what he's done.
So I was also fortunate enough to be named the East Tennessee Regional Star in Ag Placement through my involvement with my family's farm, where I work as a calf producer, and also my involvement in WJ Auction, the Kitchen and Grace Meadows, and Tennessee Professional Land Surveying, where I'm part of a quality assurance team where I'm in charge of making sure all the food is at high quality to give our customers at the kitchen the best possible experience. And also working at WJ Auction, where I work as a large animal livestock manager, where I oversee the intake, care, and distribution of all animals. And at Tennessee Professional Land Surveying, where I go out and record all property data and submit that to the state to help our customers have a more accurate read on their land.
I think that's got everybody. All right, so I'm going to call Max up. I'm going to put him on the spot right here. He doesn't know that I'm going to do this. But we're going to tell you a little bit about our project that we're working on. Come on, Max. So we have partnered with Washington County Long-Term Recovery. It's just been kind of recent. We're still kind of working with them and talking to them about a beautification project for some rebuilt houses down on the river that were destroyed by the flood. So Max, can you tell them a little bit about that and what we're going to be doing?
So like you said, we're partnering with some friends with the Washington County Long-Term Recovery Relief Group. We actually had a committee meeting today, and we're kind of just trying to get this in motion. We're reaching out to local businesses and trying to see, we're starting a plant drive and trying to get people to bring plants into maybe talking with our sponsors and maybe bring them into the school and stuff. And we're going to take those plants and members of the FFA and other volunteers in the community, we're going to go out and we're actually going to plant these plants along houses on the river that were affected by the flood. And the name of that project is called Noah Chicken Borders.
So that's very much in the infancy. We've just kind of been talking with Washington County Long-Term Recovery and that project. The spiritual healing is kind of what they're focused on with that, and being able to, a lot of those areas down there, they've got a new house, it's been rebuilt, but they're still silt. There's nothing growing. So just being able to provide those people with a little bit of color, a little bit of life. So when they step out on their porch, they're not just 100% reminded of the devastation that come through. They've got a little bit of life and hope to be able to look at. Y'all have any questions for the students or me?
I'm interested in the results on the Dr. Nuff.
Well,
They drunk it all, they don't have
the
it.
judges, they didn't know what it was, but and
Okay.
we had cases taken down there too, but we drunk them all for the But, the main thing that we went off with that was how can the different techniques, how they package the Dr. Nuffs and the different carbonation levels, and how could that affect different products in agriculture, like feeds and fertilizers and stuff like that.
So which was better? Was the short better or the tall better?
Well,
I think people like the short better.
people like the short better, but people had their own preference.
What do you like better?
The tall better.
Just like I say, thank you, Mr. Ford, for your leadership. That's evident, and I'm just impressed with all that's shared here and the activities that you all are involved in. And it always impresses me how FFA does. There's so much leadership and so many skills learned that go beyond what we traditionally think of as farming. It has a lot of impact. So it's really neat to hear. Thanks for the presentation.
Thank you. You got it now.
Thank you.
Great job.
Excellent.
Thank y'all.
Congratulations. All right. Next group, we have our juniors from both our high schools who attended Student Congress on Policies in Education in March. And hopefully they're going to have a chance to tell us about it, their experience. But these students will also be our student board members next year as they're seniors. So they'll represent, the students as student board members for the 25-26 school year. So I'll just call your name, you come get out, I'll present you with your certificate, you all stay up here, and we're going to hand you the mic and you will tell us about your experience. We'll start out with Lily Flater. There you go. Thank you. Stay up here. We got Joe Robinson. These are students from Boone. And from David Crockett, Tyler Ball. And Hannah Kemp. We'll sit down and we want to hear your experience at Scope.
So my experience at Scope was honestly really incredible. I really appreciate the opportunity to go and get to meet those people and get to talk about our education and see how much they care and all the opportunities they get at their schools, and to see what different resources they have and what different resources we had. So my debate team, we were against the changing the 180 school days to increasing it to 20. We were against it, and we had our debater. She was very well spoken. And some of our big things that we used were burnout and mental health, how students do that 180 school days and our standardized testing that we have in our schools that we need for the state funding, how we're burnt out from it from each semester we have, and how that if we added the extra 20 days, the 10% more we'll need, the 10% more funding we'll need for teacher contracts and extending contracts and everything like that, and how we'd have to change the whole calendar, and how we would have to just change a lot of facilities that we need and resources we need throughout the school year. Also, we learned some other things about each other and different things that we all love to do, and some pros that we did, for defending ourselves when we were debating, where careers don't always have breaks, so we had to learn that whenever we get into, after we graduate college, that we wouldn't have a break after that, and so we had to learn that, and then also that more time for academic success, having more time to understand the curriculum, comprehending it and learning it, and also giving our teachers time to teach it, so they don't have to rush through it through the limited time they have already. And also the kids that need those resources. They need the free reduced lunch that we have in Washington County, but some schools don't have that. But we're very thankful to have that, and some kids don't have that at home. So that's also one thing we thought about whenever we were extending that 20 school days. Some kids need that. So we had to think about some alternatives to that, and how we in Washington County, we came up with we do the bus. We do the bus with the free reduced lunch and dropping it off. So we brought that up, and we also said that some kids need those other environments at home, like they need the showers and stuff at Boone and other schools that they need. So, but overall, Scope was such an incredible experience, and I really appreciated it. Getting to meet those people and also talking about our education was just really incredible. Thank you.
Great.
Good evening. Scope was an absolute amazing opportunity, and I also really enjoyed it. Made lots of friends, still keeping in contact with them all across Tennessee. A friend from Memphis, so really all over the place. So to combat Lily a little bit, my group was giving changing the school calendar from 180 days to 200, which is an extremely difficult task when you're arguing it to high school students who are voting for you in the final debate. But a couple of our points were that we would extend the school calendar, but we would make the days shorter. So by making the day shorter, it would increase the efficiency of instructional time. And we also used studies from Finland and South Korea because they're known for having longer school years, shorter days, and they are one of the best academic and educational countries in the world. But again, it was very difficult to win that conversation. We did not. We definitely tried our best. We also had a mock school board meeting, and we debated on whether vaping should become a zero tolerance policy, and after about an hour of going back and forth, our school board decided that it should not be zero tolerance, but should instead have classes and other clubs and things after school that should get students more involved and kind of steer them away or educate them more on vaping. And overall, it was just a really great experience, and I appreciated it. Thank you.
So I would like to point more towards the mock school board trials or meetings where we discussed also the vaping zero tolerance policy, and we decided that we should also have not make it a zero tolerance policy, but increase education on tobacco and its effects. And during the debate, we was with Lily in the small meetings against the 200 days calendar, and that's pretty easy because, like Hannah said, they're arguing with high school students.
Sure.
I like to say I had a ball at state conference. I met a lot of cool people I still talk to today. But unlike them, my debate group was full of school uniforms, and I'm going to say this, we did not win that debate. We thought we had it too, we did not. But we argued that school uniforms should be a thing just for like kids that feel pressure to like fit in and look a certain way, they don't have to. And then we also had a mock school board meeting about a zero tolerance policy for vaping, and we came up with like a strike system or another way to like help you stop vaping, not completely just seem to like someone else and you still do it. But that's pretty much it, and I also still had ball.
Great. Awesome. Well, we look forward to all of you next year serving on the board. And we will be, we started a couple years ago, we'll be reaching out to each of you before school's out if we can find some time, have you come here and we'll do a lunch and we'll talk about what your vision is for next year as far as being student board members and how I can support that with you. So we'll be seeing you soon. But thank you all. Glad you enjoyed Scope.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you. I do have a motion for the consideration of the meeting agenda.
I'll make that motion.
And any changes, I'd like to see myself, the Lewis group, pushed up before we start the other presentations. And Mr. Barnes, you wanted to add discussion of.
It's on the.
Oh, is it on the
It
agenda?
actually is. It's an item in the discussion.
Oh, okay. I didn't see that. All right. Do we need to do an amendment on the Lewis group?
No, I mean, you hadn't approved the agenda. You can just,
Okay.
your motion is to make the change and then vote on the agenda as it has changed, as modified.
And did we have a second?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Barnes.
Mr. Barnes, all right. And ready for a vote?
It's open.
And this is the time that would be for public comment. There is no one signed up to do so. Oh, sorry.
All approved.
Yeah, this would be the time for public comment, but there's no one that signed up to do so. And Mr. Boyd, do you have announcements you'd like to make?
You have approval of meeting
I'm
minutes from
sorry.
April 3rd, 15th, and 22nd.
Sorry. Okay. Do we have a motion for the approval of the meeting minutes?
Make a motion, we approve the meeting minutes as given.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Vote. When you're ready.
It's open. All approved.
And now we can do the announcements.
Yes, sir. Yeah, quickly, just a list of announcements for your awareness, public record, but just as a reminder, Monday the 5th, our scheduled annual CT Awards Banquet for both high schools. This year it's at the Culp Center on the ETSU campus. Also, very important thing to point out, next week is Teacher Appreciation Week. So certainly, and it's also School Nurse Appreciation. So we have both of those going on at the same time. So certainly, it's every day is an opportunity to show appreciation to our teachers and our school nurses. But next week is especially designated to do that. County Commission budget meeting, just their normal first or the second Wednesday of the month, May 7th, 9 a.m. Just for your awareness. And then also Teacher of the Year banquet is scheduled for Thursday the 8th, 6 p.m. at Grace Meadows Farm. And then the important dates of our graduations for our high schools. You got 9 a.m. on the 17th, we got Daniel Boone, and at 1 p.m. David Crockett. And that is at the Mini Dome. And then also what most people are looking towards, we've gotten through our assessment window. We still have our high schools have a couple of assessments that remain. I think advanced placement assessments.
Yep.
Yeah. But other than that, looking forward to that May 23rd date. For everyone that's not a senior, our seniors are looking forward to that May 17th date. But that's all of the announcements for now.
Jerry, are we taking the band graduation again?
We will give a date. I'll drive and we'll leave in time enough to get there so we don't, we're not late. Yes, sir. Well, I think you wanted to move the Lewis group above superintendent's report, and then after they give their report, we'll let Mr. Joker give his presentation.
That's a tough act to follow. I'll be honest with you.
First
You did
step
a
up your
fantastic
game.
job. Very impressive. All right, so I guess we'll start first. We came early to show you. We'll start with security vestibules. Came early to show you what the board had charged us to do. At the last board meeting was to come up with a simpler version of this design for each of the 9 remaining schools that we were looking at. And so we laid those out for you. Most of you had the opportunity to go through and check those out. Where we stand with that is that I have sent a proposal to Mr. Boyd for the redesign services, because it'll have to be, because the spaces have changed, we'll have to have electrical ran to different things. Some of it can be used, some of it can't be used, so mechanical, potentially plumbing, although I don't know that it's plumbing, but mechanical plumbing and maybe just a little bit of structural work as well that will need to be done. Architecturally, we kind of move forward just a little bit on our own to get the drawings in a place where, if given approval, that we can go ahead and get those into our consultants' hands. Once it's in their hands, they've got about 2 to 3 weeks of work to do, and we're probably less than that. I know we are. We're less than that, but we'll wait for their work to finish. We'll put it together. We'll have a package, and then we can put it out to bid as soon as.
Well, we're submitting to the State Fire Marshal, which we have already contacted, and they are waiting for us to submit those.
And then we also made them tell them that we're submitting to the State Fire Marshal each school.
Yes.
And we have to do that.
We're doing it separately. That's part of the discussion that we had with them, was doing it separately because each of the schools need to have a different TFM number, like a different permit number anyways. And it'll give us the opportunity also to bid them separately. So that way, whatever contractor is working on each school can go and get a permit for each one. And it'll depend also on how they come back in bid day. If you decide to do just 5 or all 9 or, do them in parts, however you can, then that's what we'll do. And it'll be easier having separate permits.
So what we would be looking for is approval to move forward from this board. If given that approval tonight, then we could first of the week get our consultants moving in the right direction. The possibility of coming back here at next month's board meeting and being able to have documents ready to be able to go out to submit to the State Fire Marshal as well as go out to bid as well. So, any questions?
Is it appropriate now to make that motion, Jerry?
Yes.
I make the motion, we approve the changes made to the security drawings for each school and move forward with the next step in the process.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
In their proposal, I don't see it included. We didn't have it in the, in their item. The proposal was base fee of the scope of the projects, the changes, and plus customary reimbursement expenses with the contract that you currently have with those group. The lump sum fee for the modifications is $28,180.
So we need to make a motion
To include that amount, yes.
I'll make the motion to include that language if we can, Ms. Jennifer.
Can we just do an amendment to that motion?
You can. Yeah, well, you'd already had a second,
Okay,
so
go ahead.
it would be an
I'll make
amendment.
a motion, we just do an amendment to his motion on the 28,000 cost.
Okay, do we have a second on the amendment? Okay. Any discussion? Okay.
Are they, any of the work that they've done since they changed it up that our maintenance people can do?
Once we get to the point we bid it out, we can make that determination.
Well,
When we get that design.
Before we actually send it out, I'd like for Jeremy to look at it and see if it's something that, before we set somebody else.
Well, but still they have to do the drawings. We can make a decision when we're sending out the bid. If we send out all the documents, bids for all of the documents, or if Mr. Moore believes we can do the work, we can pull those out of the bid, bid documents and just include the ones we would bid.
Even if you do send it out to bid, you don't have to accept it. You can always negotiate to say maybe this 1 or 2 schools, we will try and schedule it to do the work with ourselves. If I understand correctly, part of the issue is not necessarily the ability to do it, but time. Because I understand
Busy
you're
with other projects.
Yes.
Certainly.
And the thing that I think is really, we've talked around this before, but the thing that's really important is to provide you all with as much flexibility as possibility in those bid documents. So we'll get that language, we'll share it with you so you can comment or tweak or whatever, or just understand kind of the direction we're going in. But the whole idea is that, you know, if we bid all of them separately and all of them together, that's sort of my first take on it. We've all talked about that, so, you know, and who knows what the bidders are gonna do, you know, but we give them flexibility where they can bid on only the ones they want to, and that gives you all flexibility to accept, you know.
Wasn't the last time we only had one bid, company that bid?
The very first one, it was all together, and because we were hoping we could get all of them together, so we got one bid. On the second one, when we did Sulphur Springs, we got 2 bids. When we did the high schools, we got 2 bids. I feel like if we give them the choice to either bid them all together or separately, you do have, it's a little bit of a catch, because you may have a contractor that bids 3, and another one that bids all 9, but then you may have some schools that maybe don't get bids. So this would have to be, yeah, it gives us an option to select whatever you need, but it also gives them too much flexibility to the contractors to try and backfill.
All's got a dead body in there, I think.
That's some bricks.
It's my cat.
And we can talk a little bit more about this, as you said, at the next board meeting before we actually put it out to bid. We'll get the drawings to a point where we're ready to go to bid. We can come back, we can talk about it a little bit more, and then we can advertise it after the next board meeting. So the real important thing here today is to get this approved so we can go ahead and move forward, get to that point, and we'll come back and we'll rediscuss it again, just so that right before it goes out, everybody's all on board with the way we want to bid it.
The bid language,
Yeah.
And you have that ready when, you think, 2 weeks? You said?
We'll try to have it ready for the next board
For
meeting.
May?
Yep.
Okay. Or for June, I guess, June.
Correct.
June.
Yes. Yes, understand.
Yeah, hard to believe
Sorry,
it's
it all
the first
runs
day
together. Yeah.
Any chance to have it ready by the workshop?
We can't vote on it.
No, just see it.
We can bring what we have at that point. We can ask our consultants to give us, I mean, by that point, we may have
90% said.
80, yeah.
something.
So I was gonna say 85 to
85.
95%, you know, somewhere in that range. But, yeah.
I did not for season. No.
I'd just like to say, I appreciate over the last 3 months or so, as we've been wrestling with these issues and trying to get this right, your flexibility and responsiveness to get us this simplified package rather quickly. I certainly appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any more
We just
questions?
wanna get it right for you guys. And we want y'all to be happy with what we bring to the table.
And I know you're under a lot of pressure also to make sure that the community feels safe and they feel like you are caring and trying to do what you need to do for them.
We're anxious to see the projects happen.
I understand, yeah.
Well, like several of us talked downstairs, it's like, you know, getting it something that can be bid and built, but something that provides a level of security that you currently don't have. And again, like I said last time, you know, it's easy to go off on a tangent and make these things way more than they need to be, and they don't necessarily provide a whole lot more security than the very simplified version, right? So I think, and I feel like that was sort of the consensus downstairs, that we all feel like it's taken a while, right? But, you know, but I think we're kind of getting it in the right place now.
I think y'all did a good job on
Yeah,
on this part.
I appreciate you
Thank you.
working with us.
Sure.
Any more questions? Discussion?
Just votes on the amendment.
Right.
And,
All right. Let's please take a vote on the amendment to add the $28,180.
It's open. Amendment is approved.
Okay, and now we'll vote on the motion as presented.
All agreed.
All right, and then secondly, we wanted to just, I think you have our jump drive, is that right? You
No,
have-
but
somebody does?
she's got the files, what do you need?
Oh, I was gonna bring the boiler. So, just to give an update on the boiler, building project, the drawings are 99% complete. We got our consultant information in earlier this week, just some last minute coordination items, some quality assurance check, and should be looking at going out to send this off to State Fire Marshal and put it out for bid as early as next week. And we just brought this along to show you, I mean, it's, you know, to show you the amount of work that's been put into this. And see if you all had any questions. There's not really anything in particular to necessarily look at, but just wanted to show you that it is complete. So I don't think so.
It's a little.
So 99%, so we'll be in a position to get the bid out soon.
Yeah. We could advertise, you know, first of the week.
Okay.
And then get the drawings out and put it out for bid.
Great.
We're actually going to ask the state fire marshal, you know, it's for an educational occupancy, obviously, but it's not an educational building, so we're going to ask them for a no review letter.
Sure.
You know, and we'll just see what they say.
Sure.
See if we can get it.
Yep, sure.
Doesn't hurt to ask.
It's a fee you don't have to pay if you know, if we can get them to.
Yep, absolutely. Yes, sir. Great.
Thank y'all. Appreciate your work on
We're
it.
happy for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Good to see you all.
Good to see you all.
Safe travels.
And now for the superintendent's report.
Yeah, we'll start out with Mr. Zilke with his presentation on Gray Elementary School. If I'm correct.
So right before I get started, I just want to share that for my senior year in my spring semester, I did not have a fifth period class. And I didn't just want to go home to come back later in the day for after school events and everything. So I wanted to figure out what I could put in there instead. And then Mr. Drennan, the work-based learning coordinator, reached out to me and let me know that Gray Elementary just got a brand new CTE lab, that they needed help figuring out how to work it, all the different modules, helping build certain things, help set it up for students. So I decided, sure, how hard could it be? And the first day I walked in, I built a hospital bed without any instructions. So it's been a great time. I've loved every moment, just getting to work with the students, get to better my own understanding of several of the CTE fields, because in high school I focused on AP classes. So I didn't have a lot of exposure to a lot of the career technical education classes like cosmetology and structural engineering, things like that, that are in this CTE lab. Being able to work with students, helping better my own understanding, it allowed me to help Mrs. Lewis and Ms. Dockery help teach the students in their own CTE lab. So to get started, Ms. Lawson got approved the brand new reset room, which is meant to help students teach them how to regulate their own emotions. Because psychologically, children experience the same emotions we do to the same extent, but don't know how to cope with it as we've learned as we've grown up. So this is giving them the opportunity to learn how to regulate their emotions, to just be able to reflect on their behavior, develop skills to handle their emotions in the future. It's going to help them stay in an academic setting without having any outbursts before the discipline gets bad, because the goal is to catch any discipline before it happens. By having them go to this reset room, there's a massage chair, there's posters hung all around showing them ways they can regulate their emotion, like breathing exercises, and other things of the sort. They're working on getting a punching bag in there, but they're planning on having this be an alternative to suspension before jumping that step to get an in-school suspension or out-of-school suspension, but to instead have them go to the reset room and learn how they can regulate their emotions. Now, to get into the brand new Paxton Harrison CTE lab, when I asked Mrs. Lewis and Ms. Dockery for some quotes of their thoughts on it, and they both collectively agreed that it gives students a chance to explore different career pathways for hands-on engagement. Mrs. Lewis absolutely has loved being able to work in this lab, and she has said that she has just landed her dream job. And Ms. Docker even noticed that kids with the worst attitude in class, the ones that didn't want to do the work, they didn't want to put forth the effort, are engaged in the CTE lab. There's not been a single time where we've had to tell students to get to work or make sure they're doing something. They're always active. When you look around that room, every module where students are, they're actively working and doing one of the activities. And the single word answers on the bottom of the slide are what students had to say about the room. They're put as inquisitive, eventful, intriguing, and exciting because they find it as a way they're learning what they can do for their future. And they're able to understand what career paths hold for them. Because the goal is for them to, all of the CTE classes offered at both Boone and Crockett are available in the Paxton Patterson CTE lab. So to get started, there is the alternative energy where they recently put together a windmill. And they worked with that. They just made a hydrogen-powered fuel car. A lot of things I barely understand, but they love it. They are having the best time in there. And then there's a biomedical engineering station where they learned how to make a plaster mold of a leg, which is actually used to make prosthetics. And their recent assignment was to make a prosthetic hand, make a design, and eventually create it themselves. And they use paper clips, parts of straws, and little beads they use for the friendship bracelets. And they made a very simple prosthetic hand that, in theory, could work. So there's a lot of cool stuff going on. There's the home maintenance section, which is for you can see them, they're unclogging the drain. They got to learn how to do that. And then the other photo, they're working on fixing holes in drywall and then hanging stuff to it later on. You have the cosmetology and barbering section where they get to learn all about that in preparation before they get to Boone or Crockett, which have amazing cosmetology programs. And the emergency medical tech, you can see in the top left, I am there putting a splint on my leg. Very simply, the splint was too big for the students to do it on themselves, so I was volunteered to be their patient for the day. And they did a great job. I was injured, in quotes, and they did a great job prepping me for the gurney and everything. You have the energy and power section where they get to take apart an engine. I think it's a lawnmower engine. They get to learn the inner workings of it and just what that can lead to in the future. You have an introduction to child development, which is all about raising children, the environments, and how the environment you grow up in impacts your future. And also there are certain studies on what kind of foods you eat relates to what you eventually go into in the future. There's a lot of psychological aspects to it that they learn all about in child development. We also have culinary arts where they're learning how to cook food. They made some energy bites that I was unable to try, but they said were great. So you have the nursing section where they got to learn how to suture. They got to learn how to take temperature and just make sure that they're learning the basics of what it means to take care of someone while they're in the hospital. The sports medicine section, they learned how to spine board someone in the event of someone getting injured on the playing field, and they needed to be carried somewhere. They had to strap someone in and carry them off. We did not let them carry them. We said, let's not find out what's going to happen. But they also learned how to remove a face mask from a helmet in case someone does get injured and is unable to get it off themselves. So there's a lot of good work going into this. And then the last two I have pictures of is welding basics, which is all simulation, and they have a very realistic welding helmet, and they have a simulation which allows them to practice what it means to weld, and it gives them a score at the end. I tried it. I scored a 72, and I couldn't beat it after that. So, and there's also a veterinary medicine section, which allows them to, there's a big, giant model dog, which they can learn how to take blood from. They learn how to muzzle dogs in the event of being an actual veterinarian. There's a lot of other ways they get to grow in their understanding of the different career fields that are available to them once they get to high school and their future career. So some of the other modules currently are criminalistics, which is forensic science and identifying crimes and understanding how things happen. There's design and marketing, which is allowing them to make their own designs and market certain products. There's environment and ecology, which there's a mini greenhouse, which I was unable to take a photo of. But there's also flight and drone technology, where they learn how to build paper rockets and fly drones. There's also structural engineering, which has a giant machine solely purposed to break the beams that are created and test how much force they're able to withstand before they were broken. And there's the hospitality and tourism section, where they get to learn how to set tables, more customer service skills, and other things of that nature. And next Tuesday, in the CTE lab, Paxton Patterson is coming to set up the HVAC section, the intro to health science careers, mental health, therapeutic services, and video production. So these will be up and ready for the next group to go into the CTE lab. They won't be ready just in time for the current group. But this is the current on CTE lab, and Ms. Lewis loves it. I've loved being able to work with the students on it, and the students have enjoyed being a part of it. So at Gray, there are several student groups. They have a robotics team, which they go to competitions. They just recently got a whole new set of everything they need. And there's a student council, which does a lot of community service, and they have their art club, which is a group of people to get together and understand how to draw and understand what their art means to themselves. And they also have their FCA, or Fellowship of Christian Athletes, which is what I can get a picture of here. And this coming Tuesday, I'm actually going to go to the FCA and share my story and my walk through Christ with them. So very excited to do that. And next, we'll load. So they took the middle school students took a trip to Northeast State to see all of the opportunities they have before them. They got to see the welding, they got to see the electrical department they have, and they also got to see a lot of the aviation technology, where they were able to get an experience and understanding what it takes to fly a plane. There was a full simulation they all did, and the quote I heard about that from Mrs. Lewis as she was telling me about it was, "Everyone can fly, but not everyone can land." That was proven when they had a Scottish Giant.
Great.
So there's one more slide after that. It's okay. So one of the last things I asked each of the students was to describe gray in one word. Oh, sorry. They have upcoming events. This next Thursday is their STEM day, where they're going to have, it's during the school day, they're going to have opportunities for them to see like flying drones, such an intro to biomedical engineering, and a lot of other opportunities for them to get an idea of what STEM fields will offer them in the future. The Daniel Boone Construction is going to give a presentation on hammer build, and the band of Gray is going to go to Dollywood. I believe they're playing at Dollywood that day, and then they're going to have a great time. And then on May 12th, the Boone Robotics team is going to visit Gray to give a presentation. And then I asked students in CT Lab to describe Gray in one word. They described it as the teachers and staff were attentive, they're very involved. Some students described it as indescribable, because they couldn't think of how to put it into one word, how to describe Gray. Some called it wonderful, interesting, exciting, and my favorite one is they described it as a community. So that is what Gray has been up to this semester. I've had an amazing time getting to know the students and being involved with Mrs. Lewis and Ms. Dockery and helping Mrs. Lawson whenever she needed. Do you have any questions?
Appreciate your willingness to
Great
go
job.
in.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. So volunteered or voluntold on the brace? You were voluntold.
A little bit of both.
Yeah.
They asked me to do it, and
Okay.
I was more than willing.
Good deal. Well, thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Henry. Must have been impressive, the CTE lab,
Yeah, they have.
there's a lot there.
Yeah.
I've never seen a more active group of students.
Great.
That's interesting, that's
Great.
good.
Next items are, monthly financial reports, and all of the various reports, enrollment, grants, maintenance, personnel. Other one, this was requested at the last workshop. Just a conversation came up about vehicles, and we can open that up just for just because it was a conversation. It is in the report. I just wanted to show that up there. If this money can get it open for us. All right, let's see if I can get it a little bit larger. Okay, so did a inventory where we're at of our vans and vehicles. Now, are these for student use, Dr. Adams?
Yes, those are the ones that actually are used.
These
for
are all the
student
student use
transportation.
vehicles that they're not maintenance or
Exactly.
in our service fleet. Okay. So you see that.
Is that included in the ROTCs?
Does this include the ROTC van?
My understanding is yes, it does.
I'd say that may be one of these.
It's either the 12,000 or the 9,000 one.
Okay.
I would think.
Yeah.
I would think. But
Yeah. Yeah. You can see, quite a bit of miles on several of the vehicles. And as far as the replacement, is that your recommendation or?
That is Tony and Lynn's recommendation that we should replace those.
Sure. Okay.
we're continuing to use the replacement. Once they're replaced, we're gonna continue to use them.
As long as they're safe to drive, yes, we will continue to use them. But you can see, I think there's one in Crockett that we don't use anymore.
Right here, Tahoe. Right. But that just brought that to your attention. That was a discussion.
Thank you.
This money, I just closed this out. I do that every time. Can you get us back in? Thank you.
Okay, so no more questions about the vehicle information report?
And that's all in the report.
All right, do I have a motion for the consideration of consent agenda?
Make a motion, we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Okay, have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Masters, second, and any discussion? If not, at least let's take a vote.
It's open. All agreed.
And then discussions and presentations?
Yeah. So of course, we moved Lewis Group up to the top, and we've heard from them. Next is, the discussion around soliciting proposals for a commercial realtor. This is just to authorize me to basically put those requests for RFPs out, to bring back to the board and schedule interviews of prospective realtors.
I move we authorize superintendent to solicit proposals for commercial realtors.
Second.
Okay, have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Go
I'd
ahead,
like to
Mr.
make an
Wade.
amendment to the motion. I'd like to see us bring back the surveyor and identify exactly what we're wanting to sell. I don't think we're to that point yet, but I'd like to see whether we can maybe have Angie Charles be involved in that at our workshop. If we can have a call meeting beforehand, but to identify whether there's 3 lots there, or 4 lots there, or whatever, and get the exact boundaries that we're wanting to sell before bringing in a realtor to sell. So that's my amendment.
Okay, is there a second to his amendment?
Second.
Any discussion?
Well, would we want to, why don't we pick what we want to sell with that person that you're talking about? Then we'll interview the realtors. Okay, is that how you're saying it?
I'm just saying we need to do that first, and then later on do the realtor.
We don't know what it's like.
I object to another delay. Let's go ahead and hire the realtor and let them work with us through that process. There's no reason to delay hiring a realtor. I mean, if we hire them and they don't do anything for 2 months while we're wrestling with these issues, that's fine. We need to not have what would ultimately be another month's delay.
Anyone else? Let's vote on the amendment to the motion to delay it 1 month and bring in the surveyor back before, or do you want to, you're saying bring them back together?
I'm saying I see no reason to delay.
Bring back the surveyor and Ms. Charles and maybe even the attorney. Yeah.
Wouldn't it be cleaner just to withdraw the first motion and then make another?
Well, he's not wanting to do it.
It's not the original.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're wanting to delay hiring a realtor till we do this.
I think we need to identify, I understand what you're saying, but I think we need to identify exactly what we want to sell, besides just pulling it out in the map.
I agree entirely, but let's have a realtor at her side and work with us on it and advise us. It's free professional help.
And just question for clarity, we did talk about if we brought him back, possibly bring him back at the workshop, the next workshop. And just also a point, even if we got advertisements out, you know, that's a week or two, 10 days at the most. And we'd almost be at the workshop time. The board would probably not select a realtor anyway until June meeting. That's your next call meeting. Or if we schedule a special call meeting, but otherwise, we're still gonna have a workshop before the board probably hires a realtor.
I mean, I'm not trying to prolong it, I'm just trying to, I think before we pick a realtor, we need to know exactly what we had to say. That's just my opinion.
Are you planning on advertising it? Is that how you're gonna?
Yeah, we'll just put advertising, you know, just a request for proposals.
People that's interested in it.
And, you know, basically being, serving as the board's realtor and the sale of property.
Call for question.
Take a vote on the.
Restate the motion, please.
The amendment is to identify how many lots boundaries before accepting realtor proposals.
Please take a vote.
Voting's open on the amendment. Carries with 2 noes.
Okay, and let's vote on the let's vote on the motion as presented.
It's open.
What do you mean?
We're voting on the.
Motion as amended.
The motion has amended.
So what are we voting on?
I don't understand what we're voting on. If we're gonna do that, we're gonna bring the surveyor in first before we get a realtor. I
Right.
thought that was the motion. So if the amended passed, we don't have another motion. Do we?
It changed the motion. It changed the original motion when you approved the amended motion.
So we still have to vote on it.
I don't think, no, you don't,
Okay.
you don't.
That's what I mean.
We're just gonna kick the can down the road.
I will say, just when the board is ready to advertise for it, we will work on to make sure the language for the advertisement's ready, and then we will initiate the advertisement when the board is ready for that.
So we have purchase orders to add.
Yeah, these came in after the workshop, so we have, this one was on there, but the board wanted it back under discussion for the freezer. Oh no, this is an additional amount of food supplies, I'm sorry. So this is actually a new purchase order. So I guess, to end the year, and Ms. Hugh's here, if you have any questions for this purchase order, but it is for additional supplies to complete the school year.
Mr. Fleener?
Make a motion, we approve requisition 14302500349 for $200,000.
Do you want to group these all together, or just vote on them?
Let's just vote on them separately, or
Okay.
if somebody has a problem with that.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Hill, second the motion. And any discussion?
How come we don't have enough food? Is that what the deal is, or what? Because I thought we had didn't we vote on $300 and some thousand this last time? Or is it?
We just needed another PO to purchase more food.
This, to finish out the year?
Yeah. This summer school, and we're just feeding more kids than we anticipated. Our breakfast at David Crockett, for example, is higher than I've ever anticipated. So we're just feeding more than I budgeted for.
Okay.
That's generated.
I know, I mean, I thought the way I understood it, the 300 was gonna get us through the rest of the school
We thought
year.
it was, and just, last week's purchase was 55,000 just for 1 week's worth of food. So we just are going through it faster than I,
Okay.
anticipated.
Any other discussion or questions? Okay, let's please take a vote on the motion, Andy.
Voting's open. All approved.
This other purchase order, Mr. Boyd, do you want to speak to that?
Next purchase order, we did discuss this, but being such a large item, we wanted to make sure it was under discussion and not consent. This is our conversation in using the reimbursed ESSER dollars that we captured before end of December to do some upgrades with furniture in our 2 high schools. And for clarification, Dr. Adams, 30 classrooms each?
32 classrooms with 32 desks and chairs for the students.
And that's total or each high school?
That's each high school.
That's
So
what
total
that was the
64.
question. I just want to make sure everybody was clear. So a total of 64 high school classrooms.
Yes, sir.
See, I move that we approve purchase order 5157.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it, but I need to ask some questions.
Okay. Moving for discussion.
Is this, I can't remember, is this grant?
No, it was
Or
at
is
the
this
end
coming out
of,
of fund
before December, the end of December, we had recaptured the last ESSER dollars through reimbursement. We basically sent in appropriate expenditures that we had budgeted GP, and we replaced it with ESSER dollars that we were able to use our last amount of ESSER dollars. So in a reimbursement, we captured that. What I mean by that is we basically got a reimbursement because of the ESSER, and that's what these dollars are. And they're one-time funds. I mean, they're gonna, you know, they're not gonna be replaced.
Any other questions or discussion? If not,
Mr. Chairman.
Sorry.
No, I just, Jerry, I mean, I know this is time sensitive, so we can get it done during the summer, but due to being in budget season and waiting, could we not just hold off on this a month?
We could, it just won't, we won't get the furniture by the time school starts. I mean, that's.
Do you think?
You know, the money was there. Honestly, we probably should have initiated this request months earlier, but we didn't. But, you know, if the board wants us to push it to the next fiscal year, this money will roll into the fund balance. And then we will have a discussion about bringing it back after the fiscal year rolls over.
I just have some reservations on spending $500,000 to see if we get our budget approved, you know what I'm saying, moving through. That's my concern.
It would roll over into the fund balance for next
Well,
year?
any unexpended money does, unless we designate it, but in most of it's undesignated fund balance after, you know, the books are closed, and Brad's much more qualified to explain that process, but that's essentially, in very simple terms, what happens.
Remember I gave you a range when I estimated?
Yes, sir.
18 to 20. This is part of that. I said if we did not spend the ESSER reimbursement funds or the school outcomes data, it'd probably be closer to 20 if we don't spend that by the end of the year.
Fine, I withdraw my motion then.
Okay, you withdraw your second?
Yeah, he's withdrawing his motion.
So I guess we're gonna push that over until next year's budget.
I guess so.
Certainly. Next item is just our annual, that doesn't look correct. Oh, there it is, 26,000. Yeah, it's kind of got an extra space. I saw $26 for Power School. I know that's not likely. But this is our Power School. It is an update for, you know, increasing or improving services. It's the online, registration module for our Power School database. It is within our budgeted line items, correct, Mr. Hale?
Yes.
Yes, yes, it's within our budget.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve purchase order 5150? Mr. Fleer?
I'll make a motion to approve 5150, 5154, and 5073 due to, they're all three similar.
Have a motion, to have a second?
Second.
Okay, and this is including purchase order 5150 and 5073.
And 5154.
And 5154.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any discussion or questions?
Question on 5073, what exactly, is this out of their discretionary funds?
It is. It's professional development, school-wide professional development.
Just more for the beginning of next year, a couple of days before school?
I think they're gonna do it this summer.
Any other questions or discussion? Okay, if no more discussion or questions, let's take a vote, please.
Voting's open. Motion carries.
Next item is the consideration of bid for school system property and liability insurance. The bid sheets are there in the document. If you can pull up the summary sheet. And then Mr. Hell's also done a more detailed comparison in addition to the summary sheet. So we had two bids, Tennessee Risk Management. Get a little larger. Thank you.
That document just compares the deductibles. It's a side-by-side comparison. The other document gives you the cost, the overall cost for everything. So there's definitely some significant differences there when you look at the deductibles side-by-side on those. The other sheet will give you the overall bid price, which Tennessee Risk came in, if my memory's correct, about $64,000 less overall, and you can see the differences in the deductibles. The one I'll explain, the wind, hail damage, the flood. When it says 100,000 minimum or 2%, so if we had a building loss, and let's say it was $20 million, the 2% kicks in because it's whichever's more. It's either 100,000 or 2%, whichever's more with the key risk on that same one. It's just 10,000 flat with this.
Mr. Fleer?
And Tennessee Risk Management, who we had previously, not this time, but that's who we had previously. Make a motion, we go with Tennessee Risk Management.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Yes, so we had received some information, honestly, from one of the vendors, the Public Risk Insurance, that the Tennessee Comptroller has expressed a concern about the public trust or Tennessee Risk Management, about their reserves, I believe. Mr. Hill and I could not find any documentation, any comptroller audit, reports. The public trust is a public entity, so there also is annual audits. In their annual audits, there was no findings. But today, I received an email from a representative of Public Risk and sent me a memo from Senator Bo Watson that was dated today, May 1st, 2025. And it was addressed to Commissioner Carter Lawrence of the Tennessee Department of Commerce. It just said, during the first legislative session of the 114th General Assembly, legislation was introduced regarding the municipal pools and their rates. Yes, that includes not just Tennessee Risk Management, but all of those public trusts in Tennessee. He names the Senate bill that was presented. The legislation was not adopted. However, during the development and debate, legislation questions arose about the financial health and long-term solvency of the special funds. He's asking the Department of Commerce and Insurance to complete a comprehensive financial review. So the information we were receiving about the comptroller's concerns about Tennessee risk management was based on this topic. It doesn't specifically name Tennessee risk management. It names municipal pools and their rates. Still haven't found a document that specifically identifies a concern about Tennessee risk management.
So hearing that, what's your thought?
I don't think this is sufficient evidence to question their solvency. We don't have any details specific to them. They're a viable risk fund, you know, public risk pool. They're a public entity. They report their budget, their annual audits, and as I said, I did not find any evidence had been any findings in their audit.
So you feel comfortable?
I think the bid is the lowest bid, and if the board sees fit, I think they're certainly in a place to make that decision.
Any other questions or discussion?
Is that who you and Dr. Adams recommend, Brad?
Well, I can't speak for Dr. Adams, but me personally, based on the numbers, that would be my recommendation.
That would also be my recommendation.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
I just felt like, you know, the information was put forward. I felt like I needed to provide it to the board.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go ahead and take a vote on the motion as presented, please.
It's open. I'll agree.
Next item is review of bids for cooler and freezer updates at David Crockett High School. And Ms. Hugh is here, and so is Dr. Adams, to help us fully understand this upgrade.
There were questions, I believe, at the workshop about exactly what we were bidding out, so I added in the bid documents. It has a layout of what it looks like in that actual space in the kitchen at David Crockett. I will say we do have the entire David Crockett, almost the entire kitchen team here. Appreciate your support, ladies.
I noticed that. Good evening. Thank you for being here.
Go to the April 10th, please. That was the newest news.
Mr. Fleener?
I just have a reservation just having one bid. I don't deny that there's definitely a need for this, but it's unfortunate we just have one bid. There's not much to compare apples to apples with just one bid. I'd like to, I mean, if it's not supported, I'd like to see it sent back out to bid as well next month and see if we gain more bidders.
You know,
I know it's not.
either Dr. Adams or Ms. Hugh, do you have any insight on possibly why there was only one bidder?
Not necessarily. The only insight that I can offer is that I kind of feel lucky that we even got somebody to bid on it. I think it's hard to get somebody to do these kinds of jobs, and that, you know, they're dealing with an old building, and I think contractors oftentimes want to get an easy job that they can flip real quick with a lot of profit, build from the ground up, you know. This might take a more skilled labor, and maybe they didn't think that they could make as much of a profit off of this. And we might go back out to bid and not get anybody, but I understand the concern about only getting one bid.
I mean, I just can't tell if it's a good price or a bad price. You know what I'm saying? With just one.
I can't either, but just looking at it, I don't think it seems unreasonable for the price of the actual units. Think about
Where it's going.
and how much labor it is to remove it, and but running the electrical. There was a lot of conversations with maintenance about the electrical and capacity of all of that, and so.
I no doubt know it's a need, just from what Dr. Adams said during the workshop. it's just, like I said, it's just unfortunate, we just got one bid.
Yeah. But,
Which, I mean, nobody's fault in this building as far as that goes, it's just, it's hard to compare whether it's a good deal or if it's cheap, if it's high, I mean, that's my reservation for it.
Mr. Irvin?
I went over and the ladies was over there getting food out of the cooler that's outside, carrying it around, putting it on the dock. Another group of ladies was picking it up, carrying it over to the, or on into the building and putting it in the coolers that's already in there. Number one, they need a dock, a ramp. If they could go out there, in my opinion, I may be wrong, but if they could go out there with their dollies, load it on the dolly and carry it around through there, go right up the ramp, right on in, and put it in the coolers that's already in there. And $138,000 for a cooler inside, I mean, I guess they're tearing out the old ones that's in there and putting this one in. I could spend $30,000-$40,000 and put them another outside cooler outside, but the ladies need a ramp to get up and down it. They've asked me several times, can you help us get a ramp? And I've suggested, and it's never went nowhere. So today, I'm gonna put it in the form of a motion that we build these ladies a ramp to get in and out of this building.
May, can I speak to that?
Yeah.
I don't think that that's the solution. Inevitably, you're just going to be leaving that empty space for them because these machines are going to go down. They're already going down. We've had to call maintenance to them twice in this past month, and maintenance is already having a trouble keeping them. They're on their way out, and they're not going to be making the parts for these, and you're just going to be having an empty, space that we're going to have to do something with, and mud seeping up through the floors of them already because I don't know if it's wear or tear or how they were built or both. So I just think that you're just patchworking what we've already been patchworking for quite some time. And I think that if you want to do what's best for, the ladies that you're speaking about, it would be to renovate the, space and to bring it up to par for the sustainability of the life of the school and that kitchen.
And this would take care of that concern as well?
Yeah, because it's not just the capacity issue that we're feeding more, and I know that there was some concern if we take away CEP and we don't need that much space. That's not just the concern. It's the longevity of the life of the machines have exceeded their life. So these machines are past their lifespan and they need to be replaced. And if you're just going to put another one outside, you're just adding, in my opinion, clutter to the outside of the building that you're in dead space inside of the building that will just become more storage, dry storage, I guess, that they don't need in the building.
Well, I don't like putting things in that ain't tore up. Whenever it's still running.
It's gonna tear up.
Well, everything's gonna tear up. You fix it. Now, the only reason you can't fix it if it gets an internal leak and then it's junk. You've got to do it. There's no internal leaks because if it was an internal leak, it done been tore up.
Well, there is some internal leaking of the sills because we're seeing ice build up around the top of the freezer, and that happens when the sills are breaking down, and that's just because the sills are so old of the freezer. So, I mean, eventually, yes, the sills are gonna, break down, ice buildup is gonna build up, it becomes dangerous, and yeah, eventually some things are not fixable, and parts are not replaceable, and machines have to be. And these are original to the building. I know most of us aren't using the same, freezers and coolers from, our 70-year-old builds, so that's what I would like to say about that.
And I think, in understanding correctly, just to give more detail, the request for the ramp is because of the rise of the ramp and the design. I mean, you can spend $40,000-$50,000 on another freezer and you're gonna spend $40,000 or $50,000 on a ramp. So you're gonna spend $100,000, and then for our employees, going up and down that ramp, you know, there's increased risk. And I know they have done it and they can do it, but, you know, we're looking long-term, there's increased risk for our employees. So there is an advantage of having it inside. It's replacing, you know, equipment that's inevitably soon gonna fail.
It's failing currently.
I agree with Mr. Fleener. I would like to see us possibly rebid it to try to solicit more bids. I think that'd be prudent. I mean, and this may be a great price, but without anything to compare it to, I know they're very expensive. There's a lot of expense in this thing, especially if you get a custom size that's not a standard. They're very, very expensive, but I would like to have something to compare it to, and hopefully we could actively solicit some additional bidders on it.
We can re-release it. And, if we do it now, we maybe can have it back to the board in June.
Mr. Masters?
I'm just curious on the fund balance, Brad, where we just pulled the 200 out. What's it looking like if we spend, say, another 138, 140?
The unreconciled fund balance for dietary at the end of March was a little over 1.7 million. That's down a little over $1 million from the first quarter. So the last 2 months, it certainly has slowed down.
Exactly.
So just depending on, I mean, the money's there right now. The question, I guess, is what we do long term on the budget, because the dietary budget's coming up. There's a pretty big decision to make on which budget you go with, which is going to affect the fund balance next year.
Correct.
So I guess when I answer that question, I can answer it in terms of right now, when I think 1 year out or 2 years out. I mean, the money's there right now, today. In this budget, you can just do it if you choose to do it.
I mean, I have no problem getting this cooler and freezer for Davy Crockett. I just have a problem with just having one bid. I mean, that's my only reservation. I think they need it, so definitely want to support getting one. It's just, are we doing the right thing by, how much money it is? That's my only reservation. So I'd appreciate if we send it out for a bid and next month and see if we get some more bids. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this was a steal, but I'd rather have 2 bids so we know.
I just say, given the equipment and the nature of what we're dealing with, I think the bids seem very reasonable to me. And we proceed on, a lot of times we won't have one bid. No harm getting another, certainly, but maybe right back where we are next month.
Remind me again, who bid on it? Where are they from? We dealt with them before.
Mobile fixtures, Knoxville.
Caitlin, can you wait another month or no?
Oh, yeah, I mean, this would have to happen, while kids are not in the school, because the machine will be shut down and we can't store food in it. And David Crockett feeds such a large capacity, there's not a way to transport that food
Correct.
and keep that kitchen running if those machines are not up and running. And I will agree with, Mr. Barnes, and, we did replace the dishwasher there. That was a $160,000 project. I thought this seemed like a reasonable, a bid, quote. But yeah, so it just delays this project, and if it doesn't happen over the summer, it will delay it into, it happened to be next summer, and then the price we know, we expect them to be probably more volatile into the next years, and we know it is on its way out. And if it fails in the middle of the year, it would be disastrous for our services.
Ms. Sharon, they are guaranteeing this will be completed by the beginning of the
I don't
next
believe that was written in a guarantee, but we could maybe.
We met with the representatives, and we feel it'd be ready for the next school year. They would work through June and July to get it done.
Thank you.
So it breaks down totally in October
we can't move to replace it until the next summer?
It would have to be an emergency type of deal that the board moved on, because there would be no way for us to feed those kids at Crockett. I mean, we could maybe try and figure something out, we tend to always do, but I don't know how we would do that. We would maybe have to bring in some type of mobile generated type of things and store them out back and facilitate food in that kind of capacity is what I would imagine until the project can be complete. If maintenance couldn't get them up and running. Something like that.
And I will say, in talking with the consultant who helped us put this bid together, the majority of the cost of the project is the actual cooler and the actual freezer, and those are pretty much, I'm not gonna say a set price, but you don't see a lot of volatility between a cooler and another cooler, because they're basically gonna bid out the same cooler. So the rest of the money to install it is not as great a difference, if that makes sense. So it's not like somebody's gonna come in and only charge us $70,000, because the vast majority of the $138,000 is the actual pieces of equipment.
Given the time frame, I'm gonna make a motion that we approve this bid.
I'll second it.
Any more discussion or questions?
I'd like to amend that motion that we put it back out for bid next month and solicit additional bidders. I don't think a month is going to matter through the summer, and we hopefully still have time to do it.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Okay, let's vote on the amendment, please.
Well, I had something. I still feel like the ladies need a ramp, and I don't see us paying $50,000 for a ramp.
Well, this would take care of the issue, though, wouldn't it? Not needing
Still have a unit outside.
But wouldn't it be, it's gonna be in a different area, or?
The unit outside is not, would not be in a different area, and we would not remove it. We would still use it. It comes in use in overflow, or when we want to bring excessive stock in that from commodity goods or anything. So, I mean, it's still in use, and they do still have to lug that up the steps. I mean, a ramp would be a very gracious gift and a luxury that the girls would absolutely love if that was manageable. Sure.
I have a problem tearing or doing something when something's still running.
But the ramp wouldn't alleviate what needs to be done with the cooler freezer.
I'm still staying with the ones on the inside. I mean,
Well, we're replacing a $2 million, or we're gonna spend $2.2 million on something that is still running.
Yeah.
But it's failing.
Yeah.
So that when we don't get in the middle of the
Okay.
school year and it's failed completely.
Any more discussion or questions? Mr. Parker, did you have a question? No.
This is the amendment to release bid.
Yes, ma'am.
It's open.
Ms. Morris says approve.
Are we approving the
to
bid, or are we
award
approving?
bid.
This is the amendment
Okay.
to release
Riddle's
bids again.
amendment.
Okay.
Just the
Yeah.
amendment, okay. Thank you.
It carries with one no.
I will say, if we have all the documentation, that we need to get the bid out tomorrow. And I would ask the board to consider a special called meeting prior to our scheduled workshop, and maybe you can take action on it if there are, sufficient bids.
I would like to see us actively solicit companies that do this. And phone them, find them on the internet, and then send them bids specifically. I think sometimes putting it in the paper and sending it out is probably not effective.
I will say-
We may have other ways we're doing it, but I think you actively, as a purchasing agent, have to solicit people to get extra bids on things.
The gentleman who helped us with thermal pool, write the bid and come and do all that, did send it to, I think, 3 different companies. And this is the only one who sent a bid in. And who works with thermal pool and helped us write the bid, so.
We will document that that's done.
And you were going to address the policy 3.208, use of facilities.
Speaking of replacing something before it fails. This keyboard's gone. I don't see the policy with the additions. You have it available? Okay. Mr. Bennett, you know, it was motion made to add those items. Mr. Bennett has reviewed it. The items are, but this is first reading. I think there's a few questions. One question, which, you know, I think Mr. Walters made the motion to include about security and be bonded, and I don't disagree with that. And I think there is some question Mr. Bennett had about, you know, being more clear about, you know, which groups, and to the extent that we would need to do that, or is it all groups? I think we all intended that to be for groups, nonprofits that are using on a regular basis for an extended period of time. But Mr. Bennett had several good questions to think about. So being first reading, I do think you're in a position with what you've added to pass it on first reading, but we will need to bring it back on the second reading and have those details clarified. If our response back to Mr. Bennett, he doesn't, you know, he has no more questions or concerns, then the second reading, I'll be ready to recommend approval as it's written. But on this one, it has the additional items that were added around, you know, the bylaws, requirement bylaws, which, you know, I think the discussion we've had, the one entity has done that. They posted their bylaws and made it available. I think that was a big step. And all other groups that are in the same, you know, category as far as non-profit and possibly want to use our facilities for long term, they would need to absolutely follow suit. There we go. Organizations shall, you know, background checks, so we will need to determine, you know, procedurally what that looks like, but that's a feasible request. And then, as I said, the bylaws. So the A is the one that's been still some question about some additional clarification. But otherwise, it is ready in its form in first reading to move forward if you choose to do so, and we'll get those questions answered. And as I said, when we get to second reading, we should be in a position to consider getting closer to final approval.
Mr. Fleener?
Make a motion we approve policy 3.208, community use of facilities on first reading as amended.
Do we have a second? Second. We have a first and a second. Is there any discussion or questions? If not, let's please take a vote.
Open. All agree.
Thank you. Next items are the FY26 budgets. The sequence that we have them in, we begin with the school nutrition or dietary FY26 budget, mainly because you know, a decision can impact the general purpose budget. I don't know where Mr. Hale went. Wait on him.
Let me ask you a question. I'm sure the CEP, excuse me, for these the draft, but that's if you pay for all the meals like we have been.
CEP is a free breakfast and lunch for all, and in our case, all schools, even if they don't meet that threshold, we include every school.
Could you, the 43521, the second line right there, the 500,000 if it's non-CEP, then it's 790. Is that's just like a la carte items, like if they buy ice?
No. That's where we only include schools that meet the threshold, and they would be CEP, but then the rest would be non-CEP.
Oh, okay. So we really don't have it broke out like we do this year, whether it's all free and.
Yes, that's the first column, I think. Anyway, let me ask Brad, he's the
Okay,
one
I'm
that made
sorry.
this document. Explain the two green columns.
So, and I can't tell what color they are, by the way.
Yeah, that's right.
It's line 2.
The inside and the outside, there you go, on the end.
So the one that's on the outside, the non-CEP, that just means you go back to the way it was, where students that are in need can still do the form and
Get free lunch
qualify
and
for
stuff.
the free, but you're not blanketing the whole system like you're doing now. That first shaded column is if you stay like you are now. You can go to the bottom, well, you can just see the fund balance projection is 1.255. Whereas if you go back like it was, and we're being conservative with that on the right side, or I guess it's you're right. That 424,
Yes, sir.
You know, so that's like over an $800,000 swing to the positive on the financial side of dietary to go back to like it was. And again, the way Caitlin's explained it to me, and Jared may know a little more too, but it's not that the students that need free lunch can't get it, they just have to fill out the forms.
Right.
And then obviously if they meet guidelines, they still still get it. It just wouldn't be blanket to everyone, like it's just so expensive, it's what's Caitlin said, that's one of the reasons it's driving up our inventory cost is because
More food's going in.
it's just more going out because everything's free, and we're seeing it, we're feeling it in the supply costs too, so. But that's the difference. Now, if you do go with the far right column, then I'm comfortable taking that $1 million out of our general fund budget. So basically, it will help our general fund by $1 million next year that I had budgeted. And the only reason it wasn't more than $1 million is they're still gonna have some fund balance left at the end of this year. But
Is that what you're speaking of on my question, on the 200,000 in the freezer and all that?
yeah, because certainly if you were to go back to the regular, I don't have any hesitations on that 200,000.
On what she needs?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Because I asked that, and I can say right now, yes, but my mind's thinking a year out too, and where we're gonna be in a year.
But you feel comfortable
If you go,
with that out?
yeah, I mean, if you went back to the normal way, then yeah, I would, money-wise.
I thought we was gonna pass it on to the commission and let them make the, if
Well,
it's
it's two
gonna.
different budgets. I mean, I see why it's broke out,
Yeah, I
just
didn't
to,
realize that.
it's because
not
it's two different budgets, but really, I'm the same way. I don't care to stay with the CEP draft and everybody eats free, especially since the overwhelming support that the commission had for it, but yet they didn't tie no money to it, their support. So, to kick us back to them and say, all right, we're gonna feed all kids, but you need to pay $1.125 or $1.3 or whatever to help us get that done. But it's well, and that's because it's taking a lot of money, already in fund balance. It's probably cost $1.5 million. So, I mean, I'd like to feed all kids if they're willing to put their money where their mouth is, but I hate to do it because it's two different budgets. But I assume, and I hate to assume because I know what that means, but Jerry, if we approve the nutrition budget saying that all CEP draft, that's what we're going with.
That's what's currently in the draft general purpose budget. That $1 million that Mr. Hill mentioned is currently in the draft general
okay.
purpose budget. So we put this before the general purpose budget because if you were to have made the decision to go with that far right column, then that would have adjusted the budget. Brad would have been able to take that $1 million out, and then the deficit or the gap would have been less.
So as presented, it was already in there.
as presented, the draft, in its current version, has that that CEP draft column.
Do we need to approve the nutrition budget though?
It's just which one, yes, we have to present that to the
Separately.
commission as well. It's a separate budget, it's a separate fund, it's 143.
Mhm.
But yes, so in order to, which one we're gonna present depends on which one the board approves.
I'd like to make a motion, we approve the CEP draft, the one in the middle, with all kids eating free. at this
Second.
time.
Mr. Riddle, did you have a question?
I don't really have a question, I just, you know, I don't know, my heart is to feed the kids, I get it, but is it our job to feed all the kids? Are we here to educate them, or feed every kid that comes to school, and make our dietary department look broke? I mean, cause that's what you're doing. I saw that last year when we did it, but that was the consent everybody wanted to do. But, I mean, we're not only gonna feel it, we feel it this year, and we're gonna feel it even more next year. And if we don't get any assistance from the commission, I mean, we're headed down the road in a big way. That's $1 million more. We're already almost $9 million out of budget, and it'll be done and more next year. So that's, you know, like I say, my heart's to feed the kids, but is that our job to feed all the kids, to pay for it all? I mean, I don't know. I struggle with it.
So, question for clarification, with the, feeding all the kids, the additional 1.2 million, that puts the total budget out of balance at 7.9, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
As currently proposed, yes.
So the number, he just said 9.
It's 8.8.
It's down to 7.9.
Oh,
7.9, okay, I just.
Yeah, we had a recent TISA estimate, and it had a small increase, so it brought the fund balance down below 8 million.
Well, you know, I guess maybe we could send it along like it is. We could always, I mean, we may have to revise, I guess, it's a possibility, but send it on and see where it bounces.
If they don't, then we're gonna have to make some
We may
changes.
not have a
Yep.
choice.
I guess I'll have to be one of them.
I'd like to see the entire budget as is.
Yeah.
And,
As presented.
As presented, I think the staff, nutrition and all, I mean, there's identifiable basis for every adder, state mandates, needs to feed kids, some important initiatives, go through a good budget process. I'd like to present the entire thing to the commission, we'll see what they do with it.
Yeah, the motion right now is to approve the school.
Unless Chad wants to amend his motion, add both.
Well, the only thing I thought we were doing was doing the custodial, the
Yeah.
dietary, and, or not.
Well, if I could ask and request just for, you know, basically, I know the board, you know, wants to make sure it's clear, transparent. We need to request that you consider which version of this budget you want approved, and we'll move to the next item. Because before we vote on the general purpose, it has all of these additions in it, but there's a couple that I want to clarify, and they're underneath there, so I'd like to jump to those and then come back to the general purpose, and then you can wrap that discussion up if you choose to do so. But this is really, the motion is the dietary of the school nutrition budget for FY26 with the CEP program still continuing. You had a motion and a second, so.
Your presentation is first to the budget committee of the commission. Is that where this goes first?
When they scheduled me.
Is there a date set for
I
that?
have not received any date. After we submit it tonight before midnight, you know, I anticipate soon we'll get some dates from Mayor Grandy.
Any more discussion or questions? Let's take a vote, please.
It's open.
approved.
Thank you. As indicated, if I asked the chair if it would be okay if we jump to the 11G1, G2, and G3, because these items are incorporated in the draft for the general purpose, but I really would ask the board consider taking actions on these to confirm that it's appropriate for them to be in the proposed budget. So we'll just start with G1. That's the classroom instructional fund discussion.
You want a motion?
Could you explain that?
This one is the additional per teacher amount for classroom instructional funds that we would be adding. Brad, Mr. Held calculated the total cost. I guess an additional $100 per classroom teacher.
No, we
Correct.
voted that down.
Sir?
I said we voted that down. I think we were in the movement. My motion is
Was it voted down?
to add the extra money to it.
I thought we,
Voted it down.
I'm sorry, I don't remember that being
And
voted.
it's not included in the actual.
Yeah, it got voted
I
down
can-
because we
I
were
can
gonna use
update it.
the.
Then that's my
achievement money.
fault.
Was using the achievement money.
Okay.
Yeah, so my motion would be that before a school uses its discretionary funds, which they're already getting at the $22 per student, that an amount of $100 will be allocated to each teacher for the purchase of classroom materials. So it comes out of the money they're already getting. It's not an addition to the budget.
But
And I apologize for clouding the situation. I was thinking this was incorporated into Brad's adjustments. My fault.
1 in 4 years ain't bad.
More than one. More than one.
All right, so your motion is to allocate $100 guaranteed to each classroom teacher.
You can't make
Out
that
of the
motion again.
$22 per student that they're already receiving, which is already in the budget.
Okay, have a motion, do I have a second?
isn't that the same thing that got voted down?
No,
No,
that was
sir.
an additional
It's-
$100.
It's currently, we have been allocating the school improvement funds to the schools at the discretion of the principal and their leadership team. What's been proposed is that it will designate $100 per teacher out of those funds at each school.
But won't they?
It'll reduce the amount to the school. It'll go to the teachers. SAVA does it in one another, but,
But they have
it does
handicap.
direct the way, additionally how they should spend the money. Yes, sir.
Your recommendation on that, or do you have one, or would you like it to stay discretionary, that way they can move it and use it as they see fit, or?
My recommendation, it's already an option to provide additional funds to teachers, but I believe the motion is to, require it to do that. To require the principals at schools to direct money in that way. It's going to the teachers. It's not the intent of the funds. It was intended to, as much as possible, impact in the whole school. But if you're impacting your teachers' classrooms, you're impacting the whole school. So it's almost semantics. So.
But this requires them to do one.
It would
rather than
basically,
just two.
in our direction to, we have a criteria by which they can spend those funds. It's based on student enrollment at their school. We have an amount right now that we've been utilizing and board approved at $22 per student. So as an example, David Crockett High School gets approximately 25,000. We would have to calculate the number of teachers, multiply by 100, and then subtract that from the 25,000, and then that would be the amount left that the principal and their leadership team would have to direct it towards school-wide needs.
But they wouldn't do very much.
Well,
Second the motion, so
it's
we
more
can
than they had.
discussion.
Oh, I'm sorry, thank you.
Mr. Barnes, second the motion.
Thank you for getting us back under Robert's rules. Yes, sir.
Question.
Mr. Barnes.
We saw a report month before last about spending of school funds, and it was, there are several schools that way underspent.
Well, they had not at that point,
They're
but
not at that point, and, you know, we're kind of late school.
they have, I was pointing to Brad because several of the schools have, you know, at least submitted their invoice for their intended expenditures.
So it, I mean, it seemed, that in the spirit, I think the spirit of the intent here is to try and drive and ensure that classroom teachers get some money that
Yes, sir.
the board's intent is that they get.
Yes, sir.
Whereas now, the process is not working as it should.
Well, I don't agree with that, but I agree that it's certainly appropriate to add additional requirements where those funds go directly to classroom teachers and then the remaining amount can be utilized for school-wide needs. I don't think any inappropriate spending, I know, it's not a matter of what, I don't think, I know for certain, no inappropriate spending. The report you got, yes, there was still balances there, but as I suspected, once they saw their balance, several of the principals made sure I knew their plan, and they had a plan, and they already initiated those expenditures.
I may have misspoke. No intent at all inappropriate.
No, I understand. I was making clear for the public,
Yeah,
because that's usually what they pick up on.
I appreciate that. That money that the board would like to see made available to the teachers, maybe the administrative process is just, for whatever reason, they're not enacting it.
Sure. Well, we haven't required them to use it, and from their view, their attempt was to try to look at what would have, you know, a school-wide impact, more so than a direct classroom, an individual classroom impact. But as I said, if you impact that classroom and you impact all your classrooms, you have a school-wide impact, so.
Okay, question. How many approximate teachers have we got? Just picking out Crockett.
So there's 66 in the general fund, but there will be some federally funded there. Okay, so 66 is in the general budget.
So that'd leave about 18, 18.5 or whatever, 18, somewhere in that neighborhood for school-wide expenditure.
This is just my opinion. I think that as a board, our job is to put the money to the school, and I don't think it's our job to micromanage where that money goes. And I feel like that's what we're doing if we go for this.
And I think it's an opportunity for the board to show.
We're giving them the money.
Classroom. We're giving them money, but it's not making it into
It
the
ain't our
classroom.
job to tell them how to spend it.
I want to see the teachers who are putting out way over that
What
amount of
about the
money.
teachers that don't even spend the money?
$200. Pardon?
What about the teachers that don't even use the money?
Well, I can't
That's right, we
foresee whether they're going to use it or not. They haven't had the opportunity to use it. I think this board needs to make that statement
No, we don't.
to the teachers that we're appreciating what they do and putting the money out of their pocket each year. And we're talking $100. It leaves them well enough money to be able to spend on things that they can use to benefit the whole school. I think this is a positive message that this board can send to the teachers in this county.
Does this mean we're gonna give this teacher, or the teachers $100?
In addition to
And
what they received.
in addition to, and then they can go out, and if they wanna go buy number 2 pencils and whatever else, and they bring that receipt back?
It doesn't work like that, no, sir.
No, they place their order through catalogs or Amazon. That has to be approved by whomever does the approval in the school, if it isn't the principal.
So this $100 can't be used to help this teacher go out and buy paper that she to have in the classroom for her students, or?
She can buy paper, or
Sure.
he can buy paper, but they can't go out and get reimbursed, no, sir.
They cannot get reimbursed?
Not typically. They can get prior approval, but the process is really simple. They know, our teachers know the process. They actually go through Miss Money, and it gets ordered and they receive it.
I mean, I'm looking at, because that's what I thought it was. I thought it was an extra, the extra $100 that they could have to spend for their class.
It is,
They are.
absolutely 100%, yes, sir.
But it's not, it has to be, somebody else to approve it, right?
keep, think of it this way, we don't give them $100 cash, but they.
I know.
but they
It's
can
a
place an
credit.
order-
It's a
they
credit.
can place an order for up to $100, and we just pay the bill.
Okay, but that's what I'm looking at, is it's,
I mean, there's criteria, but we don't give them cash.
I'm not giving them cash either. My question is, can they just go out here and, if they bring you a receipt for,
Yeah, no, because it has to be a place that will accept the purchase order. And we
Okay.
have several places, Amazon, you know, is big for, that. We have several places.
I don't buy off Amazon, so.
Teachers each year have special projects that they like to do for their classroom, and there's no guarantee to be able to fund that out of the money that they're getting for the $22. It's up to the leadership team to decide that, and I want to see the money go directly to the teacher this year.
Question.
This year.
Okay. All right, let's take a vote on this, Mr. Huddlestone's motion. Do we have a second? Who was the second? Second, Ms. Sparks, that's right, okay.
It's open. Mr. Irvin?
I'm figuring,
Okay.
I'm gonna support it because it's $100 they need. I mean, I don't,
Motion failed. Had 3 noes.
Next item is, I had shared with you all the sample schedule, the adjustment to the athletic schedule. I sent you my email, the links to the academic and non-academic, and hopefully my explanation of the process that I used to calculate those made sense, but I was trying to create a system that would set us up to maybe in the future to have a systematic way of how we calculate. And it also increased and equalized some very underfunded supplements. And we didn't have the total cost. Mr. Hales has incorporated it into the draft budget, and just for formal approval, I ask that you consider that increase of $90,000 to cover that adjusted schedule for supplements.
Move for approval.
Second.
Any discussion or questions? Being none, please take a vote.
It's open. All approved.
Thank you. Next item, this cost has been incorporated into the budget. The increase, the custodial contract increase or janitorial services contract increase with HES with the 3.25 CPI increase to addressing obviously increased cost. The discussion was, as they shared with us, primarily, to improve their wages for their employees, be more competitive. And that total amount, at 3.2% increase, was $55,770. Mr. Hill has incorporated it into the draft budget and requesting just formal approval of this increase.
Move for approval.
Okay, have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion or questions? Being none, let's take a vote, Ms. Jennifer.
Voting's open. It carries with 1 no.
The last item are to go back to the general purpose school budget with all these incorporated increases. Mr. Hill has shared a listing of all the increases that have been incorporated. There's a document for that, but what that results in, as was mentioned earlier, with all of the salary wage increases, all the other increases that include utilities, the supplemental changes, the CPI increase for the janitorial service would result in a balanced budget if the board utilizes their fund balance. And that amount is, I'm trying to find it on document.
Second page.
Yeah. I was down at the bottom.
Bottom of the second page.
Yep, yep. In the yellow highlight, of course, Mr. Hale can't see yellow, but he knows it's highlighted. So with that version, with this version of the draft, that includes the, the flat $2,095 increase for the teacher salary to make progress towards that required minimum of 50. We also included 1% across the board in that scale. The $1 increase for the non-certified across the board on all their wage earner employees, and then with a management flat amount increase across their salary schedule of $2,000, and the other increases that I had mentioned would result, that would be a total revenue. We currently have a total revenue projection of $92,856,642. The projected or estimated expenditures in this budget is $100,785,810. That would require the use of $7,929,168 of fund balance to present a balanced budget. And I ask the board to consider the budget as proposed.
Do we have a motion?
Mr. Barnes was going to make one earlier.
Not
Go ahead.
Eric, you gonna make it?
I move for approval of the 2025-2026 budget, $100,785,810,000, and that it be presented out of balance, not pull money from the board reserve, which has gotten down to a point that we would be really risking our financial solvency for the upcoming year.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, Mr. Fleener seconds. Any discussion or question?
Well, your motion, Eric, is not to pull the 7.9 out of fund balance?
Yes. Because I think
So are you,
well, in reasoning being, that's going to put us down to the point in that fiscal year that it would be difficult. We put us below 2 months of fund balance. And it's just, last few years, you've had a healthier fund balance.
I agree 100%.
We're clear now that it's dwindled to a point that would be unwise financially for us to get that much in.
And Brad, if we pull that out, what's it take it down to again?
So for now, I'm gonna go to my estimated
I know.
range,
I know.
So if it comes in at the 18 million, that'll take it down to around 10. If it comes in at 20 million, we'll go down to around 12, assuming, that all materializes next year as it's on the paper.
We need 8 million a month.
And you'd like to carry 2% minimum.
The minimum for me is 2 months, because roughly that's about what we spend in the month of June. Roughly, we'll see what it comes in this June. But roughly, I think you need to keep at least what you spend in the month of June. The heaviest month, in my opinion, you need to try to keep at least that at an absolute minimum in your fund balance.
Which is?
Last year, it was 16 million. We did have some grants as part of that come in for summer school, but it would have still been over 15 million. So, I'm just saying that 16 million range right now is about the minimum that would be for a comfort level. And understanding the cash flow, that doesn't mean that June, it will be the next June that I would be worrying about, because, with the cash flow though, the property tax comes in, not in equal amounts every month. It comes in mostly in December and February, 2/3 of it, so. But as you go forward into the next year, that's where I worry about more of a cash flow issue for the next June. Because expenses so far since I've been here hasn't went down. So I'm assuming next June will be more.
Any more discussion or question?
What? Did you call for question?
All right, Ms. Jennifer, let's take a vote, please. Sorry.
Voting is open. All approved.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Question for Mr. Boyd, for following Robert's rules. When we talk about to call the question, we're really moving to close debate. And a move to close debate can be voted upon. If we've got more people that want to speak to it, they can vote not to close debate, is my understanding of Robert's rules.
Somebody has to object.
Right, if there's an objection, then that rolls
Then it comes-
into a vote.
Then it goes to a vote,
Yes.
okay.
Yes, sir.
So I just want to make sure.
Yeah, it's not automatic.
It's not automatic, right.
Debate
It doesn't shut it
cease
off.
unless there's an objection, then it can be rolled to a vote, yes, sir. To proceed or to actually, proceed with debate or call it, or move on with the vote, yes, sir.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So, just to frame this, so we will be presenting a budget and essentially making a request for additional funding from our county commission.
When will they see that?
Well, they'll get the budget tonight.
Right.
And,
When's their budget committee meeting?
well, they have a regular scheduled budget committee meeting Wednesday, but I don't believe that's part of their FY '26 budget meeting schedule. It's their normal budget meeting. I will be in attendance. If they have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them, but they typically have scheduled us, to present directly to them and go through that first, and then once it gets to the full commission, have a chance maybe, hopefully, to present again to the full commission, but maybe not.
Will they have to pass through the budget committee first to go to full commission?
Yeah, they can, their normal process, I believe, they can pass it on without a recommendation. They could even, I guess, reject it as a budget committee, send it back to the board.
We gotta go through you first, right?
With budget, no.
Okay.
Not with budget.
That's what I thought.
Last year, they just passed it on, correct? Because we weren't asking for any.
Because we had sent them that budget as in the form of a balanced budget, utilizing the board's reserves. Yes.
Custodial.
Did we skip that?
Field
No.
trips.
Oh, field trips. We did the custodial piece. That was incorporated. in
Right.
the budget. The rest of them are field trips that came in, overnight field trips that have come in after the workshop. And just, requires board approval. They're overnight trips.
Do we have to approve them?
They're overnight trips, yes, sir. You had several under consent, but these came in after the workshop. Just asking for board consideration and action.
Mr. Fleener?
Make a motion, we approve 11H1, H2, H3, and H4, and H5 as presented, overnight trips.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, Mr. Riddle seconds. Any discussion or questions? Okay, let's take a vote, Ms. Jennifer.
Voting's open.
Jennifer, I closed out. My vote is yes.
Okay. All approved.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else?
Don't believe so. No,
I
sir.
appreciate your all's patience and grace with me tonight. I haven't chaired a meeting in years.
Mr. Chairman, please do not hit the hammer and the gavel too hard. You scared everybody when you opened the meeting up, so just lightly tap it. Thank you. Thank you.
You did a good job. Driving home.
I think you gotta have authority. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
Well, thanks, Sarah, for enduring. Appreciate it. Well, now, which AP tests do you have?
I have AP European History and AP Calculus.
All right.
You need me to help you study?
For what board
pretty
members
smart.
are here, who wants
Calculus, no
Daniel
thanks.
Boone